It seems like Francis Ngannou vs Jon Jones is finally happening, but the question is who would actually win? Jon Jones has been preparing for his heavyweight fight for the longest time, and it seems like he hasn't fought in forever at this point. And Francis Ngannou is coming off a significant knee injury, so there definitely would be questions going into this matchup for both guys. But quickly, before we get the video started, for those of you who may not know, I'm Juicy MMA, I make opinionative MMA content, and if you guys enjoy videos similar to this, hit that subscribe button, that like button, and that post notification bell. But anyways, let's get into it. Jon Jones is clearly one of the best fighters in the UFC. The amount of versatility that he has within his game, alongside with being a specialist in certain aspects of his game, just makes him so dangerous for any opponent that he would go up against. And in my opinion, when you look at his career overall, I certainly think Jon Jones is the greatest fighter of all time. The amount of title defenses that he had throughout his career and the level of accomplishments that he had so far is just incredible. But in my opinion, if Jon's able to go up to heavyweight and beat Francis Ngannou for the belt, I think it would be undeniable that Jon Jones is the greatest MMA fighter of all time. But while all those things are true, there are a bunch of different questions and concerns that people have about Jon going into this matchup against Francis. At least potential matchup. It seems like there's a good chance it may happen. Well, the first question is, we've never seen Jon Jones at heavyweight, so it would be interesting to see how he plays there. And it is crazy that the first time we're going to see Jones at heavyweight is going to be against Francis Ngannou, the scariest man on the planet. It was reported earlier on that the UFC was looking to do a Stipe Miocic vs Jon Jones matchup, which I've said in previous videos that I thought that would be a very favorable matchup for Jon, and it would be a nice feeler fight to see how Jon performs at heavyweight, and then we could assess from there how he would match up against Francis Ngannou. But the fact that it seems like we're going straight into this Francis Ngannou matchup is definitely going to be very interesting. And the biggest things that I'm going to be personally looking for with Jon at heavyweight is going to be A, how quick he is, because if that speed doesn't transfer over to heavyweight all that well, and he turns out to be pretty slow, then that would not be a good thing for him, of course. The next thing that I would be looking for Jon Jones at heavyweight would be his cardio. Jon has always been known as having pretty good cardio throughout his career, but at heavyweight, when you're putting on all that additional weight, it's going to tax anybody's gas tank, so it would be interesting to see if he can fight for 5 rounds at a decent pace. And the last thing that I would look for is how his chin reacts, because of course Jon has had a tremendous chin throughout his entire career, but typically your chin gets better the better shape that you're in. So if Jon's putting on all that additional weight, there could be an effect to his chin, probably not to be honest, but there is a chance it could. But also at heavyweight, these guys hit much harder, especially Francis Ngannou, so these guys are definitely not fighters you're going to want to take punches from, and Jon has been known for taking punches from guys in the past, especially if they have the same reach as him. But now, let's move on to Francis Ngannou, because there also are certain questions about him as well. So of course, the first and most obvious question is that knee injury. How is Francis going to come back from that significant knee injury? Is he going to be explosive as ever, or are there going to be certain limitations for him in this matchup? But that's the obvious question. The next question that I want to touch upon is how will Francis do with Jon Jones's wrestling? Because although Francis has certainly improved his wrestling, he's showed that in his previous couple bouts, he still isn't a good or great wrestler, of course. And when you're going up against Jon Jones, who is a phenomenal wrestler, it's going to be interesting to see if Francis can keep the fight on the feet. Because most likely Francis is going to have the strength advantage, but Jon is also going to be extremely strong. And when your opponent has significantly better technique than you, technique always beats strength, so it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out in that sense. But now, let's get into the actual fight and break it down. Now, on the feet, I think this could be very competitive. I think Jon could have a lot of success with that jab, those kicks, left straight, switching stances constantly, just giving different looks to Francis consistently. I also think Jon has the ability to hurt Francis, even though Francis has an incredible chin. But there certainly is an X factor on the feet, and that's Francis Ngannou's power. Now, of course, people see Francis as having a tremendous amount of power, but don't necessarily give him all that much credit for being as technical as he is. And when you combine the fact that he is pretty technical alongside with the power that he does have, he becomes a very dangerous opponent. So even if Jon is having success on the feet for let's say 5 rounds, it only takes one punch to knock out Jon Jones with that power that Francis possesses. And it would knock out anybody, it's not just Jon. And honestly, on the feet, I see this fight somewhat similar to Israel Adesanya versus Alex Pereira, as crazy as it may sound. ground. But I think Jon, similar to Israel, might actually have a lot of success on the feet for the most part, but it only takes one shot. Alex Pereira was losing the fight for the most part, but in the 5th round, he finally got his opportunity and hit his shot, and once he hit it, he instantly hurt Adesanya and put it away from there. And I think it could be similar in this matchup as well with Jon Jones and Francis Ngannou. I could see Jon having a ton of success throughout the most part of the fight, but if Francis is able to find an uppercut or maybe a left hook or whatever it is, just eventually hit Jon cleanly, then the fight could be over from there, or at the bare minimum, it could take a significant turn from there. But that's kind of how I see it on the feet. On the ground, I think it's pretty clear that Jon's going to have a significant advantage, but the question is, would he be able to take it there? If he is able to get the fight to the ground, I see Jon punishing Francis with those punishing knees, maybe even looking for certain submissions, but overall just dominating on the ground. And overall, I think this matchup is just very, very interesting and very close. It's hard to predict a matchup like this because we've never seen Jon at heavyweight and we don't know how Francis is going to come back from that knee injury. But at this point, I think I would have to favor Jon Jones, as crazy as it may sound. Because although that is that nuclear option for Francis, it only takes one shot. I think Jon is the more overall skilled fighter. I think that's pretty clear actually. And I think he is going to be able to try to tire out Francis a little bit and take away some of that power by utilizing that wrestling throughout the most part of the fight. Now maybe early on Francis would do a good job at stuffing a lot of those takedowns, but eventually I think Jon will get to him and be able to hold him down for at least an entire round. But of course I could see Francis winning by a knockout. I don't really see Francis winning by a decision. I think it's either going to be A, Francis by knockout, or B, Jon Jones by decision, or maybe even submission. But I guess we'll see what happens when this fight actually officially gets announced and once it actually comes about. But I am extremely excited for this potential matchup and hope and pray it actually does happen. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think Francis Ngannou would win this potential matchup, or do you think Jon Jones would be too much and he would win it? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy, check one of these 2 videos popping up now, and until the next time, peace out guys.